I warn people to let the dust settle here and look up at what the world is facing now, because there's going to be sweeping political, monetary, and economic changes in the coming months. And I fear that 2017 is going to be the most difficult times the world has known in some time.
Andy,
Sean.
I'm working on 2 hours of sleep here, Andy. How are you?
Good. I had 3 last night and 2 the night before.
Oh, well, then you're more burned out than I am. Guys, Andy Hoffman from Miles Franklin is on the line for a live, in-the-moment reaction to the most historic election in the history of the United States. Brexit 2.0 is here. Andy Hoffman, your reaction.
Yes, well, I'd like to say that I was never had a doubt, but of course, the election rigging was off the charts, including Alex Jones's website being hacked last night. So even though I knew that the feeling in the polling booths around the country was the same as mine, until you see the greatest regime of all time broken, you just don't believe it's going to happen. And sure enough, it did.
I am really, really stunned that, honestly, one of the most corrupt people in the history of our nation, Hillary Clinton, is now sidelined, Andy, permanently. She doesn't even have a court case here. There's nothing they can do. The reign of the Clintons appears to be over politically.
Yeah, and it's going to get a lot uglier. Again, you have to wait till the dust settles, and we're watching here again. Incredibly, I didn't think this level of market manipulation could be possible to try to keep gold from surging and the Dow from plunging. I mean, to see gold only up $20 and the Dow barely down after being down 700 last night and gold up $60 on, in my view, the most gold bullish news imaginable and equity bearish news imaginable, just shows you that there are great lengths that are going on right now to prevent the inevitable crash that's coming from occurring. And by the way, not just the election, we'll get to that in a second, but people are going to be overshadowed, not realize that just yesterday the Indian government, in an unprecedented event, had a primetime conference to essentially ban cash. So again, you had, a 1-2 punch of completely unexpected black swan events going on at the same time yesterday, which ultimately are going to be the most bullish thing imaginable for precious metals. And frankly, it's going to be terrifying on a global basis. It's going to wake people up, not just to the political regime that's changes that are going on, but the monetary regime changes that are about to sweep over across us like a tsunami.
Now, let me ask you this. Monetarily speaking, in terms of the U.S. dollar, what are you seeing globally? Is the world reacting negatively? What do we see happening with bonds? What do we see happening with the dollar? Does this spell doom like the mainstream media would have had us believe before the election?
Well, again, it's very hard for me in everything that I've known and said and done and seen to interpret all that I see here. I mean, Treasury bonds are getting absolutely annihilated. As they should, because look, Trump's plan is to be the biggest deficit spender ever. He wants to cut taxes and dramatically increase spending. And while some of that is just rhetoric to get elected, that's his plan. And on top of that, we're talking about rates are rising, not because the economy is going good. They're rising at the same time that the Fed's rate hike odds plummeted overnight from 80% to 40%. So this is all about fearfulness. This is the bond vigilantes that are coming in, because we're going to have the biggest debt increase of all time. And we would have had it under Hillary Clinton, but I think now that the actual election process is over, it's kind of sinking in that that's what's going to happen. So, we're talking about the worst of both worlds going on here, which is why, how you can see the stock market be unchanged when you had, a giant political and economic wild card come in and interest rates exploding is beyond me. So again, this is the initial, let's call it manipulative reaction historically, as I call it, PM bullish, everything else bearish news item, let alone the Indian cash ban. So again, how do I see things going? I think that deflation is going to accelerate in the coming years. I think, as this historic overcapacity is unwound. And I think that the central banks are going to hyperinflate. And, the reason that with Treasury bonds are going to plunge, who's going to be buying them up? Remember, all the foreign governments have been selling treasuries hand over fist to fund their own exploding deficits. So the only answer is going to be QE4 and the Fed lowering interest rates, which is just why it's so astonishing how gold is up $16. It should be up $100. It should be up $200, and the Dow should be down 700 points as it was before. But give it time. This is the initial manipulated reaction.
Yeah, I'm actually glad though that there's some sense of normalcy here and that the Dow's not down 1,000 because I had predicted a Hillary victory. I thought they'd steal it, and then I predicted that if Trump did win, we would see the markets annihilated. So I'm glad to see some normalcy here. The other thing that is really good news for humanity here is we have Putin calling to congratulate Trump, saying Russia is ready to restore relations with the United States. Any way we cut this thing, good or bad. Otherwise, the good news is perhaps we don't march into World War III as Hillary would have taken us.
Right, but again, we weren't going to go into World War III last night when the Dow was down 700 points. Again, I mean, look, you can't have the stock market going up because of a good reaction. Remember, Sunday night when they had that fake Comey comes out and exonerates Hillary Clinton, gold plunges and the Dow went up 350 points on the supposedly great news that Hillary was going to win.
Right.
Remember, gold was going up and the Dow had fallen for 9 days in a row because Trump was supposed to win. So now we're supposed to expect that because Trump unexpectedly won, that this is going to be good for stocks and not so good for gold. And this with Treasury bonds. I mean, Treasury bonds are literally being annihilated today at the same time that the expectation of Fed rate hikes have gone from 80% to 40%. So again, even I mean, I look at my screen, I'm going, what am I supposed to interpret from this? It's so ridiculously, it's almost like it's more rigged than it ever was because nothing makes sense. But what I do know is that the big picture is a Trump victory is the biggest wild card in political history. And not just here, we're talking about around the world. I mean, you can have all these other referendums like the Italian one coming up. It's going to be the same thing. The Grexit is going to come up potentially by year end. We're going to have debt defaults around the world. I mean, it's just astonishing to me to see what I'm seeing on the screen right now, even if there are powers out there that are trying to stabilize things, because the ultimate reaction, the ultimate result to what this election victory was, is going to be political and economic and eventually financial market chaos.
Right. Okay, here's the other piece of good news, though. Obamacare is over. Republicans retain the Senate. Look, in the state that we're in, Andy, as you well know, I think the Obamacare premiums were going to go up 67% here over the next year. Completely unsustainable, bankrupting the middle class. People can't afford Obamacare, and it looks like this Affordable Health Care Act, which is no longer affordable, is now dead in the water. It was unconstitutional. It should be done away with.
Right. Of course, the road to getting rid of Obamacare is not going to be as easy as people think. Once you go down the road of socialism, it's hard to undo it. And while clearly a Republican-controlled Congress will be more likely to do that with Trump in charge, getting a bill on the table that's undoes this, it could take years to get done. So you're going to see your 60% increases this year and potentially next year as well. Again, it's so hard to undo damage. It's kind of like saying, well, now that we have a new president, we can pay down the debt. No, in fact, this president is going to, according to his own plan, increase the debt. We're going to have some draconian solutions, which are as yet completely uncharted and completely unplanned. Right now, it's just the honeymoon. He won. It's good. We're not going to have Hillary Clinton. But then the harder part of how we actually move forward is going to go forward. And yes, it's great that we're not going to have war with Russia. But we didn't have war with Russia under Obama, and we probably she was just using that as a talking point just to try to scare people into voting for her. And so again, I warn people to let the dust settle here and look up at what the world is facing now, because there's going to be sweeping political, monetary, and economic changes in the coming months. And I fear that 2017 is going to be the most difficult times the world has known in some time.
Okay, just a couple more questions. I know you got to go here. So I wanted to ask you, if you're Hillary Clinton today, if you realized that you no longer had the power and the protection of a crooked DOJ, she soon will not have that protection. What is your reaction to this? The man who told you will soon be in prison under his watch is now headed to the White House. $13 billion missing from the Clinton Foundation just from Haitian funds alone. And that's just the beginning of the litany of her crimes. What do you think lies ahead for Hillary Clinton? A prison sentence?
Well, of course, there is a chance that Trump in his diplomacy decides to, try to let the nation heal rather than drag the Clintons to the court. And yet again, they'll escape unscathed. But I think that there is definitely a public desire for them to be punished for what they've done. And so let's call it a 50-50 shot that they will be prosecuted, because they should be in jail. And if not them, certainly a lot of their henchmen. So, in many ways, that would be kind of a cleansing of the cancer, but at the same time, there is a chance that diplomacy will prevail in the name of reducing the level of stress in the nation.
Okay.
I mean, look, it's an amazing thing for America's future that we escaped this socialist warmonger regime, but at the same time, we still have exploding debts and a collapsing economy and all the same problems that we had yesterday morning as we do this morning.
Right. A lot of our friends out there, Andy, have predicted that now everything will crash, and they'll just blame it on Trump. Everything was going to crash anyway, eventually, hyperinflation, etc. Okay, last question. Last night, I spent most of the night switching between CNN and Fox News, and of course, covering the alt media. What was your reaction to the Mockingbird mainstream pundits as you watched this thing unravel in real time for Hillary? I saw nothing but shock, and so many of the folks at CNN were apoplectic and just stunned, and of course then blamed the polls. How were the polls so wrong when we all know the polls were rigged? What was your reaction to watching these Mockingbirds in real time?
Well, again, I mean, I'm going to take a bow. I've said all along it would be a landslide. I've written extensively about how the polls were rigged. I explained how the election betting odds were rigged. In fact, there was the same 20% chance of Trump winning yesterday morning as there was of a Brexit on the morning of the Brexit vote. And actually, last night I was actually listening to Alex Jones the entire time. I had the Fox on with the mute on, so I can watch the election returns, which frankly I saw even in real time on the internet. But it was really, I didn't want to listen to those people because they make me sick. They've been wrong about everything. Even when my wife came home and we decided to put Fox on just so we could hear a non-pro-Clinton view, even they sounded like morons. Just like the whole Republican Congress, there's still a bunch of stooges. Thankfully, they're probably going to repeal Obamacare. It'll take some time to do so and do some things that are less socialistic. But, I've had it with, my view all along has been that after this election, whatever's left of the mainstream media is gone. I think CNN, the New York Times, these things are all going to go off the air, out of print, all that stuff, because it's our world that's taking over. I think, it's blogs like mine and channels like yours and Alex Jones. I mean, we're taking over the world. People want truth. They showed it yesterday. They're done with lies, and that's why the mainstream media is all but dead. They put all their chips on Hillary Clinton, and they lost.
Amen. And the Wicked Witch appears to be dead as well. Andy, thanks for joining us for this quick update. We very much appreciate it. Tell people how they can get gold and silver to protect themselves.
Yes, milesfranklin.com, 800-822-8080. And remember, not only do we have our traditional product offering, we now offer online purchasing. And please go online and read my article about our new private safe deposit box program in Toronto and Vancouver. Unique, one of a kind in the industry. And we'd love to give you some details about it.
All right, guys, and thanks so much for tuning in. We have all made a difference in this election, every single one of us. And to those who remain hopeful from the very beginning as opposed to pessimistic, what a great day. I think a great day for humanity. Thanks for your support. Thanks for checking us out at sgtreport.com. Have a wonderful week ahead. God bless.
Donald Trump will be the 45th President of the United States.